Thanks for joining me on this edition of TheCounselor. I am Obayomi. Thank you for joining us once again. I have two guests in our midst this day, and I'm so excited because we're going to be discussing something really important and fundamental in homes. And my guests today are Mrs. Lara Adedeji and Mr. Obayomi Abiola. Welcome, sir and ma.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome once again. Alright, so we're going to be discussing very importantly, we're going to be talking about love and submission. Love is quite important. People, there's a saying that a woman responds to love while a man responds more to submission. It's quite important, and this is why we have to really come up with this discussion on this episode of TheCounselor. Whenever there's a conflict in a home, most of the time, it's probably because the wife or the husband rather respond unlovingly to the wife, and then afterwards the wife becomes disrespects the husband. Alright, so it could be because many a times when there is conflict in a home, it's most likely the husband responded unlovingly to the wife, and then the wife, in response, she decides to disrespect her husband because of the reaction she has gotten from her husband. This is why it's, most conflicts in homes are paramount. It's majorly on love and submission. And as a matter of fact, there was a time that a research was made, sir and ma, and then we discovered that 70% of women said the issue with conflict is because their husbands did not love them. And then 83% of men said it's because their wives did not submit to them. So this is why this question is quite important. What is love and what is submission? I'd like to come with you, Ma, first. What is love from a woman's perspective?
Thank you for having me here. Good evening, and I believe that it's important, like you rightly said, that we examine what love is and what submission is. Because many a times we realize that it has been abused, it has been misunderstood, and many a times we don't even know when we are not operating in it. So for a woman, God has wired a woman to function in an environment of love. A woman functions correctly and appropriately in an atmosphere of love. And love for a woman means being appreciated, being praised, being recognized, a sacrifice, emotional outpour. Everything she's doing, recognize it, appreciate it, and she wants to hear it. She wants to see it. So you realize that a woman always craves for love, directly or indirectly. Not even just in a marriage relationship, even in a normal relationship between friends. Once it's female friends, you will see that the woman wants the other person that is her friend to appreciate her, to applaud her, to recognize the friendship, who she is and what she is doing. So that's why naturally God has wired women to function correctly in an atmosphere and environment of love.
Love. Oh, thank you very much. And thanks for that. A woman has been wired to, function and respond well in an atmosphere of love. All right, sir. So I'll be coming to you now, sir. Why should a woman submit? What's a man's perspective of submission?
I will first of all start from defining what submission is, so that we can understand what it entails and what it means. And then what I will try to do is, I will not go into too much argument. I will just look at submission from what the scripture says, because when we are talking about submission in marriage, we must first of all understand that marriage is an institution by God, and if God instituted submission into marriage, there is a reason for it, and there is the need. It is very important, and if it's not important, God wouldn't have put submission in marriage. So the starting point is, let's look at the word submission. What does it mean? Submission connotes, coming under an authority, and an authority in the sense that there is someone higher than the person who is submitting. And so most of the time it is usually mandatory and it is obligatory. If there is an authority to be submitted to, people who are bound by that authority don't have any excuse. They must submit to it. And when it comes to marriage, you see, it is God himself that instituted submission into marriage. Marriage is the union of two people, the husband and the wife. And most of the time, the husband is the head of the family according to God's order. He is the authority in charge of that family, and by virtue of precedent as well, the man comes first. And so he is the authority figure in the sense. And then seeing that, God insisted that in marriage, the woman naturally should submit to that authority, because when we're talking about this authority, the man himself has somebody who he is accountable to. And in the context of marriage, it is God. And so, as long as the man submits to God, then the woman, by submission, is also subject to her husband. And that is where the problem is. A lot of people have misconstrued the concept of submission in marriage. You see, submission in marriage does not mean that the woman is inferior or is subservient.
All right, because I was going to ask a question on that.
Okay.
Now, what's the difference between leadership? Because when you talk about authority, you mean leadership.
Yes.
Yes. So what's the difference between leadership and rulership? Because what we have right now in many homes is rulership, whereby the man is the lion of the tribe of his own. But what can we say? Because when we're calling about submission now, it looks like this is the instruction of God, and obviously God is not a ruler. He's not a ruler in that sense. So what's the difference between leadership and rulership?
Leadership has to do with showing example. Most of the time in leadership, you are in charge because there is a journey you are taking people into. There is a future, there is a picture in which you have been saddled with the responsibility as a leader to take those people into that future, that picture. And it is different from rulership in the sense that in rulership, most of the time, the followers don't have a say. In leadership, followers have a say. You see, you have to lead by example. You have to show people that, see, this is where we are going, and this is how we can get there. Most of the time, you take their contribution as well. You are not bossy. In rulership, you are a boss. The subjects don't have a say. So in marriage, the husband, as it were, instituted by God, is not a ruler. He is a leader, a representative of God in that family. So he is the authority figure representing God.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So this, made me remember the fact that while I was reading Genesis some days ago, I found out that when Adam and Eve when they had the apple, when God was going to ask somebody a question, he asked Adam. He did not ask Eve. He had to ask Adam because he's the leader in that home. He's the one responsible for the home. Thank you very much, sir, for that point. So, Ma, I would want to ask again. God gave the instruction that a man should love his wife and that a woman should submit, which means it could have been the other way around, really. It could have been that it's the husband submitting and the wife, you understand? But if God has given that, command, why do you think God has? You've mentioned it before that it's the wiring of the woman to love. But can you explain more? Why exactly is the woman so? Why is it like that? That a woman should love and the husband should love rather, and the wife should submit. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, God. The truth is that God is the creator of both the man and the woman. And when God created them, He knew why He created them. It was God that identified that, hey, damn, it is not good for you to be alone. I've given you a task, I've given you an assignment, there's a responsibility for you, but I will create a helpmeet for you. So God created the woman. So what necessitated the creation of the woman was help. So when God created the help for the man, which is the woman, and God introduced the help into the man's life and he received it. Now, the thing is, God knows that it is important for the woman that he has created to be the help, to submit to the one that he has created her to help. So if you don't submit, how do you become helpful? Imagine if you are in your house and you have a help, and whenever you say do this, the person says no, this is not how it's going to be done, this is what we're going to do. What happens? You would naturally relieve such a person of that duty or responsibility, so that the woman will become relevant, so that the woman will become useful, so that the woman will become all that God has created her to be. That is why God commanded her to submit. Submit so that you can help this man, so that when he's giving directives concerning his assignment and the authority and responsibility are given to him, you can work with him to make sure it is achieved. And God now said, you as the man, I don't want you to take the help for granted. You have to love her. You have to make sure you appreciate what she is doing. You have to make sure you appreciate the help and the sacrifice that the one I have sent to you is bringing to you. So I think that
answers the question. Thank you so very much, Mark. Thank you for giving light into it based on scriptures. Thank you very much. Yes. So, Sam, I'm going to be coming back to you. If for an instance where the wife feels that I am my husband's friend, and then I can afford to express myself in any way I can to my husband. The question is now, where is the balance between friendship and submission? If a woman is saying she's submitting, when does she get to, the mark, the point where it looks like she's stepping over friendship, that she's going to the point of not submitting anymore? What's the balance between friendship and submission?
Thank you. In friendship, there is no issue about submission in friendship. And as a matter of fact, it has been, established, although I don't have the statistics for it right now, it has been established that most of the times, like out of 100 people, 85 or 90% end up marrying their friends. And so, in friendship, for instance, there is no need for submission. You don't talk about submission, you are just friends and then you enjoy each other's company as long as it is friendship. But when the relationship translates or transits from friendship into marriage, then it has entered another phase. And whether the woman in the question, in the picture, likes it or not, then the issue of submission comes in. Now, the balance is this. The woman must deliberately or knowledgeably know that she is now married to this man, although he is my friend. But now that the relationship has gone into marriage, then the issue of submission becomes very, very important. So she must consciously translate herself into that state of submitting to the man. It is a deliberate act. It is something that she must done, cautiously and deliberately. Because whether we like it or not, as long as you are still friends, but the relationship has gone a step higher than friendship, and then in marriage, it is compulsory that submission comes in. So you can't afford to misbehave just the way you used to do when you were friends with the man.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Well, Ma, I'm going to ask you this same question, because I know you married your friend. So how did you do it? I want you to give us practical examples of how you overcame that, that friendship stage to the point of submitting to your husband, because you're very good friends. I know that.
Yes, I married my friend, and just beyond being friends, we were classmates. So we sat together for maybe 3 years out of 4 years in the university. So we were so used to each other. And for me, the first point of call was, like you rightly said, identifying the transition that have taken place. You must be able to recognize that transition. Then as a woman, you want to find out, because another way you help your husband is to make sure that he remains a respected person, both inside and outside. So your decision will determine how he will be respected on the outside. And for me, one of the decisions I had to take, I think maybe it's at the first year of our marriage, that I decided that, okay, I will not want a situation by error of omission or commission that somebody would disrespect my husband or call him names because of my own disposition towards him. So I switched from calling him his name, which I've called him almost 6 years of our friendship, to giving him a pet name that many people also now call him. Then I also had to transit. For us in my language, in Yoruba, there is the O and the E. Then so I had to translate to the E of acknowledging him as someone that I'm submitting to and is older than me. It's not about age here now. It's about the authority.
All right, Ma. Can you emphasize why this is really important? Because many people don't think it's important.
It's important because I don't want a man. I don't want to be found with a man that cannot stand with his shoulders square in the public and be able to defend me. If I don't defend him, he can't defend me. So if I don't want him to be disrespected in the public, I make sure I respect him both in private and in public. Because most of the times we want to export what we have not manufactured. You have to respect him inside for you to be able, because usually you say, no, when we get outside we'll do it. It will sleep. Because you are not used to it. So you practice it inside, then you export it outside. Because before you know it, especially if you are a kind of person like me that have a public life, your private will become public one day. And what you feel you've been hiding will become public. So it's better you address it in the private, then you make sure it's established in the public.
All right, now I'll ask this question to you first, and then I'll ask Mr. Obayomi too. What's your view on public display of affection? You know, of course, I don't want to sound like I'm pretending in the public. So, where is the balance in public display of affection? What do you think about it?
Public display of affection, I think it's something that it's unique to different couples, because you realize marriage is made up of two individuals that are different. So you realize that public display of affection, there are so many things involved with it. There are some personalities that don't accommodate public display of affection because they are secretive in nature. They prefer to do their things in the private. And if you, for example, marry somebody that doesn't have that kind of personality, you have to strike a balance. You have to come to a point where you agree on what should be public and what should be private, so that innocently you won't be hurting your spouse. And I would also love to say, especially for men, you don't display publicly affection to other people what you don't display to your wife. You hug every other sister except your wife in the public. There's a problem. So whatever affection you cannot display publicly to your wife, don't display to any other person. If you can't peck your wife in the public, then don't peck on any other woman in the public. Because you are sending a wrong message across to her if you do that. So there has to be a balance, and for the couples, for the spouses, they have to really sit down and talk about it, communicate the extent to which they can display their affection publicly.
All right, Mr. Obayomi, I said I was going to ask you, so can you tell us about public display of affection?
But public display of affection, literally there is nothing wrong with it. It depends on the couples involved. I, for one, as a man, I don't do it. I don't like hugging ladies. The best I do with the opposite sex is to shake them.
All right.
And so that has been how I grew up, and it's still part of me. I prefer to shake rather than hug. So, but it depends on, just like she rightly said, it depends on the personality of the couples involved. As a woman, if you discover that it's your husband who likes it, or as a wife, you are the one that likes it, what the two of you should just do is to sit down and then decide on the extreme. Although there is nothing wrong in hugging your wife in the public, there's nothing wrong. But when it has to do with, going to the extreme, like, we see in Western culture, anywhere, then as a man, for myself, I'm not sure I can do that. But if I have a wife who loves that, all we just need to do is see, this is how I am, and then let's define what we can do together.
Because I was going to say that, what if your wife is someone that loves public display of affection? How do you balance it? How do you tend to be sure that you are not doing things to hurt her in that sense? How do you balance it so that she doesn't get hurt when you don't do it?
Yeah, the balance is the two of them talking about it. See, what should we do in public? To what extent should we go? Then, if the two of them can come to an understanding, then I believe they can pick up from there.
All right. Thank you very much. And I think it's important to note that you don't have to, display your affection publicly when you don't do it inside. So it's important that you do it in and out. Thank you very much, Sir and Ma. I'm going to be asking another question to you, Ma. I want you to define the different types of love languages that we have with examples, so that the men can understand what love means to them. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Gary Chapman wrote a book on 5 love languages, and many a times people tend to talk about the fact that there are 5 different ways of showing love. You can give gifts, word of affirmation, you can do service, and all the likes. But for me, I believe so strongly that what God has called us to do is for a man, love your wife. And he set a very good example in that scripture. He said, just like Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. That means it's an unconditional, sacrificial love. That means it's not about you, it's about her. So it has to be sacrificed. So it's not that. So it's not for a man saying that I love gifts and I've given her gifts. You should be satisfied with that. You can't love her to the degree of your own satisfaction. It has to be the way she wants to be loved, and that is why, for me, my advice to men would be create a love environment. For me, the 5 love languages that Gary Chapman talked about is just saying that there are 5 ways you can create a love environment. I've not seen somebody that you will give a gift and the person will frown and be angry and throw the gift back at you. So it's an environment. You are creating an environment of love by giving of gifts, by doing service, making sure that you spend time, quality time with your wife. She won't throw you away and say, why are you all over me? Please go and rest. No, she loves it because it tells her that you care about her. She means the world to you. So you realize that every of these things that we talk about as the 5 love languages, they are love environments that men should learn to create around their wives so that they will be effective and they can function well.
Thank you so much, Ma. It just means that it has to be thoughtful. It's not something after your wife has complained about it, you now remember that you want to buy her a gift or you want to call her names or affirm her. No, it has to be something thoughtful. Lastly, we're going to be talking about faith. Submission and a woman's faith towards God. And I want you, sir, to talk about it briefly for us. A woman's submission to her husband and faith towards God. Where is the balance? Where does the balance come in?
The point is, especially for a woman who is a believer, a Christian, before she got married, the starting point is that your submission first and foremost is to God. God comes first before your husband. And even your submission to your husband should actually emanate from your submission to God. That should be the sequence. And that is why when we read that Ephesians chapter 5, where Apostle Paul was talking about wives submitting to their husband, we can see the sequence. He said, wives, submit to your husband, even as your husband submits to God. Christ is the head. So the faith the balance is this: it's any submission to your husband that we disregard submission to God is a no-no. As a matter of fact, it will be fine if you submit to God than if you go against, your husband rather than going against God. Because the point is, as a matter of fact, your husband should even be as a result of your submission to God. So what I'm trying to say is in the first place, you shouldn't even, marry a man that is not submitted to God, because if you don't do that, there's going to be a conflict in the marriage. So, but in situations where that mistake had been made, and that is why the Bible admonished couples that even if you marry an unbelieving husband or an unbelieving wife, by your conduct and by your submission, you can win either of them, back to God. But the point is, in no circumstances should you try to please your husband, and then displease God. You will have gone above board, and that is not acceptable, with God. So the balance is this: try as much as possible to make sure that you submitting to your husband emanates from your submission to God.
All right, thank you very much, Sabo. I want you to briefly tell us so that women can hear it from a woman's point of view with an example.
Okay, the example that comes to mind is the example of how the wife of Smith Wigglesworth won her husband over to the Lord. And it's so important because it drives home the point of a woman having a chaste conduct and also fearing God and submitting to God. Now, this woman, when her husband was like, you must not go to church anymore, you just have to stay in the house, no faith, I'm not a believer, you should not be a believer. Now, this woman went ahead, went to service, and by the time she came back home, her husband had locked the door and locked her out overnight. Now, for some other women who say, you locked me out, okay, let me go and live in the church. But this woman sat in front of the door and slept there overnight. And when he came in the morning and opened the door, she wasn't angry, she didn't shout, she didn't nag. She embraced him and planted a kiss on him and asked him, sweetheart, what do you want for breakfast? And she went ahead going to fix the breakfast. No bitterness, no anger. And by the time this man saw this kind of response from his wife, he became broken. And that's how he was won over to the Lord. So imagine if that woman decided to stay home and say, I'm not going to church. Let me just listen to my husband. Or imagine if she went to church and came back and was locked out, and immediately the man opened the door, she started ranting. She would have lost completely at both sides.
She actually would have even lost the soul.
Yes.
And she would have lost so many souls that the man had brought to Christ.
Exactly. So that's why it's important that we must understand the order. We have to seek God first. Then every other thing should be a product of our seeking God.
Thank you so very much, Matt. It's so exciting to have you today on this episode. I'm so excited, really, because I believe, God, that we have been blessed. The primary thing is for a woman who loves God and a woman who is ready to submit to her husband. Once you're ready to submit to God first, it will be easy for you to submit to your husband. And for a man that loves God first, it will be easy for him also to love his wife. I believe God will be blessed this day. Until we come your way again on another exciting episode of The Counselor. I believe God you've been blessed on this exciting episode of The Counselor. I have been blessed, and I'm Olabisi Obayomi. God bless you.